announcement today. I am playing this map. Hold on. I don't really have the best lighting for my face cam, so turn this on. Okay, so I found this world. I have a flashlight. And there's a haunted house. Haunted mansion. Well, yeah, house, I guess. So, as you can see, it's kind of scary. There's one light on in there, up there. Okay. So, welcome to my humble abode dinner. Well, why is this all like, be ready shortly? I don't know, show yourself around. Oh shoot, I didn't even see this. And there's scary music. Big doors. I'm gonna go here. Ooh, it's so scary. Okay, there's a chair to do some writing and stuff. Ooga booga. Why you? What was that? What is that? What is that? H88. Okay. There's a camera right there. Don't know what that's for. What was that? There's candles. Oh my gosh. Yo. Oh my gosh. This is so scary. Is this fog? What am I trying to find? I don't get what I'm trying to find. I think these all have the same thing in them. Yeah. What is this? Oh. Oh shoot. So, is this the end? I guess this is the end of it. Okay. That's still kind of scary. Okay, so this. Okay. What the heck? This triggers the laugh. That girl laugh. What the heck just happened? Did that dumb kid freaking end it? What did that kid do? Hold on, what? There was some kid that freaking joined this. I was spectating him, and then I went back to the hub, and then I joined him. And I figured out it was a freaking haunted house thing, so I started a stream. And then I played it. What the heck? Where's that kid at? I don't get what I'm trying to find in this. Welcome to the Hag's Horror House. Be warned, it is frightful inside. Play with music and sound on high volume. Turn shadows on for best effects. Shadows. I think I have shadows on. I don't even know how I would change that. But I think shadows are on. Wouldn't it be in this? No. What is this? Look sensitivity, aim sensitivity, ADS. Okay. Build mode, sensitivity, multiplayer. Can you do split screen on this? There's no way. Use advanced options. No. No. It's not really changing anything. I'll have it like at 15. Oh, now you can see it. Let's put it at 0. So now you can't really see anything. But I think the brightness and stuff is already down. Or not the brightness, I think I already have the shadows on. I don't know how to change it, but I think it's on. Wait, what? Wait, why? There's a fast zombie. Oh shoot. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Why didn't I get this last time? That didn't clear it. What? I can't change it back? That made the path worse. I can't go through this. I'm literally stuck in here. Oh no, I'm not. Are they breaking that? Can they actually break this? No, they can't. Well, I think it was maybe the beginning of season 10. I don't think it was either the beginning of this season or last season. I saw a pistol with a flashlight on it. I don't know if they actually have that, so I'm gonna go on creative and check. My stream might randomly end. Why did Zombie Lord freaking join me? Okay. Hello. Yo, leave that. Leave that. I'm going into creative.
Okay.
Wait, is this the actual zombie lord?
This is Zombie Lord.
Are you Zombie Lord's brother?
Who is that?
Hmm?
Oh my fucking god.
Yo, get the actual zombie lord.
Yeah. Not Alex.
Yeah.
Hello?
Huh.
You want to talk to him?
I'm streaming on YouTube right now, so if you could give the controller to Alex and whatever the heck else, that would be kind.
Alex, want to talk? Alex.
Why am I in... I need to go into my world.
Well, put in the creative. Here's look for his headphone.
Why isn't Alex playing?
He's looking for his earpod.
Oh.
Are you gonna put on creative?
Yeah, I'm loading back into the lobby. I want to go into my world and try and check something.
Alright. Popping these 90s.
Popping these 90s. You know I play on keyboard and mouse.
Yeah. Alex told me. Thanks.
Wait, what? Do they not have... Oh, never mind. I think they took away the freaking creative islands and stuff. My freaking island is going to be laggy. I haven't played freaking creative in a long freaking hot minute.
Where'd you go?
Don't even know. In my world, that's where I want it.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Devices. There's red buttons now. What the heck? They freaking have the mechs in here. Oh my gosh. Yes, they do have the flashlight and the torch. Yo, I gotta make something with it.
Wait, could you go back so I know where you are? Cause I can't find it.
Yo, they do have it.
Hello?
What's up?
What's up, bro?
Right.
I think my headset was broken or something. I don't know.
Is it good now?
Yeah, for now.
Let's play in my world. We can play with the pistol. Join me.
We do what?
Or go into my island. I mean, what the heck? The world.
It says you're not in your
playing
island.
freaking Minecraft. Huh?
I guess you are. No, it said for me you are not in your world.
Yeah. Well, I am. And I'm getting the flashlight and stuff. I need to do some stuff first. Hold up. A book. What's the big book for? I didn't spawn.
No weapon. You hot, bro? You hot?
Hold on. Aren't these
That's not my girlfriend, my ex. My girlfriend lives in LA.
Why'd they freaking... Why did they add
Yeah,
this
rocket
much
launchers are
stuff?
awesome.
Just freaking spawn the item. My gosh. Okay, I'm not looking at all that dumb stuff. Charted. I think... No. Wait, did I not freaking put the gun in?
Come on, make me so I can do stuff. Wait, what kind of pistols did you
Hold
put
on.
in?
Hold on.
You got 1 million things out.
What?
Yes. 2 million now.
I think we're good. No, look, we're not done yet.
Oh my god, bro, come on. Come on, mate.
We're good.
Put that infinite ammo?
Yeah, I did that a long time ago.
What's this? Why what do I want a flashlight? That's everything.
Whoops.
No, don't want no fucking heavy. Let's go like to the left more or something. This is where we can build. Not fuck up your place.
I can build.
No, like over here. Where we just build for like random. Hold on. But make sure it's not in builder pro. Hold on. The fuck is that? What gun is that?
PUBG.
What PUBG? What gun from PUBG?
It's the automatic sniper rifle. That's what it's named in this game. Oh, wait, you have it?
Yeah.
Oh, does 40 damage to the body. It does like, I don't know.
I called it 940.
I
caught
don't
the
know why
940.
the shield is not on.
Dude, do not break shit. Quit being like a little fucking punk.
Fall damage is on.
Alright, I'm about ready to leave. Don't fucking break structures.
You're about to leave because I freaking broke something.
Yeah, quit being a little pussy ass bitch. Quit breaking structures down.
That's what you are, buddy. You can break me down. But it's not gonna work. I thought I built.
Oh no, cause he's a little bitch. Know how to fucking do settings.
Don't call your brother that.
First of all, I called you that because you are one.
Oh, yeah, oh, guess what? What? What are you doing? Lagging. I did not have my shotgun out.
You did.
No, I didn't. I had my freaking pickaxe out. Watch my stream.
You're not streaming.
Yes, I am.
Oh, cool. You know, all those times that you're streaming, they couldn't hear my voice because I turned off my voice thing.
They can.
Stream. No, not if I turn off my voice thing.
Well, then I can't hear you.
Bye.
Why the heck did you throw impulses literally everywhere? That's not how you freaking use impulses, retard.
Yay!
You freaking suck.
I did that on purpose so I get my fucking health back.
No, you did not.
It's clearly you don't
Why'd
have
you
those.
try and why'd you
Yes,
try
I
and
did.
save it then?
I wasn't. I was just fucking building something that you should have done. But no.
You suck.
Bye bye.
I freaking lasered you out of freaking air with a pistol, bruh. Pistol.
Yeah, they're fucking shooting in the air. You're like a little bitch.
Well, I'm good at it. So, I can.
You're good at sucking dick, apparently. Fuck.
You suck.
You just like
I should probably put, oh wait, did I say you suck? I meant I suck. Sorry. I should probably put, a shield on. I'm really trying not to make you rage quit. Because you're a good player, and usually, whenever I play, like, Playground or something, I usually get, like, bad players. So, like, I actually want a challenge, but I never get a challenge.
Oh, well, I can't move. I move.
Why can't you move?
It would not let me.
Why? Ooh,
Not 1,000
56 for the headshot? What? You were faking the whole time, and you were faking that the whole time. You had to be.
Actually, I was not. It got down to... God damn it. Who the fuck is using... What do I mean?
What's the rifle?
You feeling it? Shotgun?
You're lagging in the air.
Yo, dude. What? This is so... I can't fucking do nothing. I keep falling off the structure.
You're lagging. Where the heck did you go? Okay, what? Did he rage quit? There's no way he rage quit. No one has ever rage quit that fast. And plus, he like killed me like 3 times. Like, why would he rage quit like that? And plus, he was faking being AFK or whatever the heck. Oh, I'm AFK, so that means I'm just gonna act like I'm AFK and I'm gonna get a free shot. Yeah, that's how it works now. No. He literally rage quit. Yo, bro. She's not gonna join me. There's no way she's gonna join me. Epic friends. Did he turn his PS4 all the way off or something? Wait, K Kazuto is freaking offline? How? He's usually always online. Queen Wolf. That was my first ever on Fortnite. My first ever Fortnite girlfriend. Yo, Simply Axel. Yo, look him up on YouTube and subscribe to him. He's literally, like, he's the freaking coolest guy ever. I have to replay that on my stream. I don't know what that was. I'm replaying that on my stream. on Fortnite, my first ever Fortnite girlfriend. Yo, Simply Axel. Yo, look him up on YouTube and subscribe to him. He's literally, like, he's the freaking coolest guy ever. He's the freaking coolest guy ever. Yo, Simply Axel. Yo, look him up on YouTube and subscribe to him. He's literally, like, he's the freaking coolest guy ever. Yo, Simply Axel. Yo, look him up and subscribe to him. He's literally, like, he's the freaking coolest guy ever. 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 I think I just leaned back and it just fell. So like I was leaning back and then I think because I leaned back it fell. I hope. Oh my gosh. Suggested friends? Like, are these guys good, like as good as me, or not? Recent players, 0. Suggested players, 0. When I put this down, these are the recent players. Okay. The freaking suggested people should be freaking Tfue and Ninja. Literally. Like, I have as good as aim as Ninja, and like, as good as building and editing as for freaking Tfue. Like, if I had close to freaking no ping, then I would be freaking like, maybe even better than Tfue. Like, maybe even better than him. But no, I have lag, because that's a thing. And it's dumb, too. I should watch Mr. Nightmare. My freaking computer is so slow and so laggy. I wish I could fix that, but looks like there's not a way to fix it. Mr. Beast, Mr. Nightmare. First one down was Mr. Beast, second one down was Mr. Nightmare. I have him subscribed, but I don't have notifications on. He recently uploaded a video a week ago. 2 weeks. I'm guessing he does it like weekly. So, is it Thursday? Yeah. I think it's Thursday. Hopefully it's Thursday. Yeah. Yeah, Thursday going into Friday. Okay, yeah. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. I want to go get some more freaking homemade sweet tea, but I don't want to make it a lot of noise. Should I? Yeah. I'm gonna get some homemade sweet tea. What time is it? 12. I'm gonna go get some sweet tea. Okay, nothing happened. I got some sweet tea. I made it without dying. Wait, hold up. This is cocked? Oh, I wasn't actually looking down it. I don't know if this has a baby in it. Okay. I'm teabagging. So much sugar at the bottom. I have no idea what the heck I'm doing with my hand. Literally, that's what I'm doing. I need like a really close self-defense gun in my room. Like, cause all I have is freaking BB guns and like airsoft guns and my shotgun, but that's not loaded, and I'm not allowed to have the shotgun shells in my room. So, like, I can show it off on stream and be like, oh, I got a shotgun, I'm gonna shoot your head off. Like, I can do that, but, like, I have a hunting rifle, like a little 22 hunting rifle. That's my grandpa's. It's in, like, it's about 50 feet away outside in a garage that is easy to open, which is unlocked. So someone could easily go in there, get the 22, and then start freaking shooting us up. But it's a bolt action too, so. And it's loaded. The magazine's loaded. The magazine isn't in the gun though. It's in a gun case too. And there's a crossbow in there too. Okay, why did I tell my stream that? Someone could watch my stream and be like, well, thanks for telling me. I'm gonna go to your house and do that now. Oh my gosh. Don't do that. You're gonna wish you didn't. Like, I know where my freaking shotgun shells are. I have freaking slugs. You do not want to get shot by a slug. Like, you will have, like, the biggest hole in your stomach. Like, it'll be this big. Like, for real. That would probably do it with buckshot too, or birdshot. I have all three. And I have hollow point. I'm just kidding. I have actually two kinds of 22s. I have this kind and kind of a hollow point ish. Yeah. I have pellet guns too. This one's a pellet gun. And this one right here, it's a pellet sniper. I shoot these. And I have another pellet sniper, which is about 40 feet away. It's my grandpa's. Oh, and I have literally diamonds laying around. And a gold coin. That is good. I'm just gonna listen to Mr. Nightmare.
Described the happenings to the police when they showed up. They didn't have any marks to show them, but they still took her out. The place was closed for the night. We all went home after that. I haven't been to any haunted attractions ever since.
Hold up.
The year I turned 13, my friend invited me and two other
How
friends
are
to stay
you,
at his
Ellen?
house on Halloween night.
I'm good.
He had a fairly large house outside of our town, and it was the perfect place to go trick-or-treating. We decided it would be cool to go now.
I'm trying to freaking turn off the music.
We were near the end of our trick-or-treating, and at one house, a woman answered the door. She was tall and skinny with short.
Why can't I turn off the music?
Her house was disgusting. You could smell the odor of cigarettes from inside. She was quick to tell us that there were no more sweets left. However,
Oh
she could go
shoot,
try to
I
find
didn't know you
something
could
for
go
us.
down.
After a couple minutes of waiting, she comes back with an old brown paper bag with old looking candy
Okay,
inside.
that did nothing.
We kindly deny the bag and tell her we're getting picked up, so we better go.
Yeah, I can't turn off the
Grabs
music.
one of my friends and says, "No, please." But my friend pulls away
Fortnite
from
music.
her, and she
She
quickly
don't know.
shuts the door.
What are you listening to?
We knocked
Mr.
on
Nightmare.
houses before hearing something going on near the parking lot of the housing complex. Someone exclaimed, "They took my child, they took her, they took her." It was her, that woman. And that was my friend's parents' car that she was banging on. She was throwing herself at the car and hitting it with her fists. A couple of neighbors came out due to the commotion. They seemed to know who she was. They apologized to us and said it was a big misunderstanding.
I'm gonna try and get used to
We
that.
got into the car, and my friend's mom started driving us out. But we don't get far before the woman jumps in front of the car, claiming one of us was her child. The neighbors once again pulled her away.
Sounds good.
It was later that night, however, when things truly began. We stayed up late like any teenagers do at sleepovers, and we watched some scary movies. Out of nowhere, the light turned on in the hall. We could see it under the closed door of the bedroom. We assumed it was my friend's parents who were about to come in to tell us to get some sleep. However, no one came in. I decided to have a peep out the door. Nothing at all. My friends joined me to see why the lights suddenly turned on.
That's how I do it. My gosh.
My friend says, "It's her." Through a large window facing the backyard, we see that woman standing there, looking in. However, the second she saw us stare at her, she ran away. Disturbed by this, we came back inside the bedroom and locked the door. We were obviously quite shaken up by this. Who is she? What does she want? We sat around for an hour, nervous, on high alert. However, we eventually did somehow manage to fall asleep. That morning,
What you
my friend's mom
drinking?
told us the situation at the housing
Oh,
complex
sweet tea.
shook her up so much
This is a
that she
tea
thought
bag.
she had seen that woman standing over her bed in the middle of the night.
No,
My
I'm
friends and I
retarded.
never even
Oh
told
my
her we saw
gosh.
that woman at the house that night, which led us to wonder, what if, just maybe what if, that woman actually was inside the house that night?
Ooh, don't worry. I cleaned my table before I.
Operating system constantly evolving with
Don't worry. I cleaned my table before I play on keyboard and mouse. No, my whole thing went in there. Dang it.
Last year, Halloween was on a Wednesday.
I'm
Because of
retarded.
that, I was home alone. My dad works nights.
Yeah.
My mom was staying with her sister.
Probably
because her parents
backwards
were
for
getting
you.
along at the time. My sister was away at college, so it was just
Oh
me
my
left to
gosh.
provide for the trick-or-treaters. My dad bought a couple bags of Kit Kats and told me he expected them empty by the end of the night. I don't know why, but my dad takes Halloween seriously. I didn't get home from classes until around 6, so it was already dark and the kids were out in droves. The second I dropped my bag on the couch, the bell rang, and that went on for some hours. I was getting homework done later on in the night when the trick-or-treaters had mostly gone home. It was sometime past 9, though. I remember that much.
No school tomorrow.
It was the first time in over
No
half
school
an
for
hour.
me tomorrow.
I went to open the door with a near empty bowl of Kit Kats, expecting some kids, but instead it was just this lone guy, maybe 35 years old. He waved at me with a neutral expression on his face. I didn't open the storm door. I kind of just watched him, ready to shut the door on him. He stopped waving, then reached for the handle to the storm door and pulled it open. At
Lucky.
that moment, I slammed the door shut in his face and locked it. I texted my family group chat that some old guy just tried opening the door. My dad joked that if he does it again, go outside and teach him a lesson. I decided that was it with opening the door for the night. I went back up to my room to finish my homework. Soon, I heard yelling coming from outside. I lost my patience and eventually got up to see what was going on. I slid open my window and looked down, and there was that man again down below, looking up at my window, shouting at me. He was mainly yelling that he needed help finding his son. I didn't believe him for a second. I texted my family again. My dad just said, "Ignore it, he'll go away." I left my room and shut off the light so that he'd go away. Then I went to the basement, which had no windows. I hung out down there to do my work, and all was quiet for a while. Then, flick, the power went out. My initial thought, that man outside tinkered with the electric box outside of the
It's
house.
so scary.
I stayed in contact with my...
Hopefully you guys can hear this correctly and good. Because, like, if you can't, then that sucks. Like, yeah. What?
family the whole time. After a few minutes, I heard the floorboards creaking above my head. Someone, as if I couldn't guess who, was inside the house. My mom and dad and sister all texted me to call the cops. I stayed put in the basement because it was the safest place at this point. The cops were en route. All I had to do was wait. The basement door then opened. We stepped down the stairs. only
Gaia's
halfway
voice
down.
is very clear.
Even without power, a little bit of light from the upstairs poured into the basement, enough for me to see his legs. He was standing on the middle step of the staircase. And I swear, he just stood there for like 2 minutes. I heard him mumbling stuff. I won't even pretend I could understand anything. After the longest, most painfully uncomfortable moment of my life, the man said into the basement, "I can see you." The whole time, his legs were actually facing me. Was he actually looking at me that whole time? Still, I didn't move, nor did he. He continued to stand there until there was a bang at the front door. Then he walked up the stairs, shut the door, and I heard creaking above again. I waited 20 seconds before running upstairs to the front door. By that time, it seemed the man had left my house, because the cops couldn't find him, even with my help. Stupidly, I left the back door unlocked, so he simply let himself in. As for the power, he messed with the electric box outside, as I predicted. I don't know if he did this on Halloween intentionally, or if it was just a coincidence, but something was wrong with that man. He didn't belong out in the streets.
No.
He's got my action! Halloween night. I don't know what year it was, but it was probably like 4 years ago, and it was a Saturday. I'll keep this short and to the point. My friend Tanner and I were set on doing something scary that night, and that ended up being a visit to the abandoned house way up the road from our campus. It was at the top of the hill, and some students referred to it as the Blair Witch House, simply because it sat all by itself on an enclosed property, and it had been abandoned for years. So, come 10 o'clock, Tanner drove us all the way up the road and parked his car in the dirt outside of the property. We walked up the hill to the house, and even just seeing the unlit house standing in the dark gave me goosebumps. We both came with backpacks full of tools like flashlights, knives just in case, and he even brought a crowbar. Surprisingly, he didn't need it though, because the front door was already cracked open. This is where the flashlights came in, because of course the inside was as dark as it gets. The house seemed to be scrapped for just about everything, because nothing was left except junk. Nothing very exciting. Then there was a thump from upstairs. Tanner and I looked at each other, and we agreed to go upstairs and check it out. He led the way up the stairs, which were extremely rickety. We got to the top, and there was a small hall with 3 doors.
Wait, I'm dumb.
We passed the first room, which was a tiny bedroom with an old collapsed bed frame still in there. There was a second door on the left. This one led to an empty bathroom. There was one more door, this one on the right of the hall. We stepped inside. This bedroom was definitely the master bedroom. There was a bed frame sitting in the center of the room.
This guy has a serious
There was
spooky
once
voice.
carpet on this wood floor, which had apparently been ripped away over the years. We stepped fully inside the room, looking for what could have made the thumping sound. And then, bang. The door to the room slammed shut, and there was suddenly a white flash that filled the room. Then another. It seemed like camera flashes. Tanner screamed and opened the door back up to flee the room. I did the same. Neither of us looked for whoever was in there with us. In the moment, we were way too scared. We ran back to the car, and Tanner drove us back to campus. A week later, Tanner sent me a picture through text. He was holding a photograph in the picture. It was of the two of us in that bedroom of the house. He said they were left under his windshield wiper in the parking lot of our dorm building. I told him throw them away and park somewhere else from now on. We only told a few close friends about this, and we never went near that house again.
Oh, the video's over. Wow. Okay. I'm gonna play the one that was made 2 weeks ago. Yeah, October.
If you want to stop missing jump shots and finally become the consistent automatic shooter that you need.
No one cares. It was made in October. It's October Horror Stories. That's what it is. Okay, story 1.
For the month of October in 2016, I worked at Party City as a seasonal job. It was pretty hectic for the Halloween season, obviously. I got stuck with the night shifts on weekdays since I didn't have early classes. The location I worked at changed its closing hours on weeknights to 11 p.m.
I
during the
love
Halloween
Party
season.
City.
My
This is
shift
the
would
best
start
place.
usually at 5 and I'd work till close. The rush would die after 9, and after 10 there would hardly be anyone left in the store, especially on weekdays. On my shift on the day in question, I started work at what was referred to as a costume grabber. I would be told on walkie-talkie what costume and what size to grab so that I could hand it to the customer and they could try it on. After it quieted down, and later on in my shift, I was told to start cleaning up the aisles, restocking, and bringing stuff either up from or down to the basement. That got tiring quickly because it was a lot of walking up and down stairs. Past 10, there were only about 4 of us still working. A girl named Maria working the cash register, Kyle cleaning aisles and stocking shelves, Ashley the supervisor for the night, and then me doing the back and forth basement work. The basement was at least connected straight to the upstairs costume storage room, so it wasn't a super long walk from the basement. I took a 10-minute breather, then went to continue lugging boxes from the basement up to the costume storage room. The lights of the basement had been turned off by someone. I figured Ashley. I flipped the light switch back on, and down into the basement I went. As I was lifting a box of girls' costumes, I heard something fall on the other side of the basement. Not to make you think this basement
That would be
was
so
really big, it was just one big
scary.
circle full of boxes with a big shelf in the middle. I put down the box I was holding,
Be
and
right
slowly
back.
peered my head around the shelf. There was someone in a white hooded robe costume with a scary monster mask. Of course, I jumped back at first, then I laughed, saying, "You got me." Whichever of my coworkers was in the costume didn't speak, though. They just tilted their head to the side a bit, as if they were still messing with me. I had a feeling it was Ashley at first, even though she would supervise some nights. She was a clown. But then I realized this person was way too tall to be Ashley, so it had to be Kyle. I tried approaching him to remove the mask. He just backed away from me, though. Then I looked down at the boots on his shoes. The dirty, heavy work boots that I knew for a fact Kyle wasn't wearing. I started getting the shivers. I went back up the stairs without running to avoid suspicion. I shut the basement door and went straight to Ashley, who was talking to Maria by the register. I asked, "Where's Kyle?" And he literally called, "What's up?" from a nearby aisle. That's when panic set in. I asked if there was anyone else working that night. She said everyone went home. So I told her someone was in the basement in a costume who didn't belong there. Kyle and Ashley came with me to the basement so I could prove it to them. But like any cliche horror scenario, whoever was down there was gone. There was a back exit in the upstairs costume room for unloading truck shipments.
That
It was
sucks
possible
whenever
the
like
intruder exited through there.
it sucks whenever like something happens and then you get your friends and then you go try and prove that it happened and like you can't prove it and then your friends are like, you loser, you made me do this for no reason. It's so dumb.
Ashley sped through the security footage of the past hour and didn't see anyone enter the costume room except for me. But there wasn't a camera in the basement or the actual costume room itself to check that. Part of me felt like it was a prank, and that if I went back down there, I'd find the person
That
in the
does
costume
suck.
again. But my job was my job, and I had to get back down there to continue stocking the costume room. When I got back down there, I once again picked up the box of girl costumes I originally was trying to bring up, got it to the stairs, and stopped because I thought I may have heard the noise of a small plastic bag being slightly crumpled. Of course, I didn't want to stay down there to find out alone. I wasn't getting paid enough. My shift was almost over, so I lugged the heavy box up the stairs, dropped it in the costume room, and went back to the doorway of the basement to shut off the light.
I would just run away. I wouldn't even care about the
Looked down the
light.
staircase, and at the bottom was that person in the white robe costume again, only this time minus the mask. I saw his face, his smiling face looking up at me. I slammed the door shut and ran out to Ashley and the rest, screaming for help. They came as fast as they could to the costume room, but the back exit door inside was wide open, as was the basement door. This time, for real, he was gone. The one camera on the outside delivery area didn't even catch him. I don't really know if that intruder managed to steal anything other than the costume he was wearing. For all I know, it could have been just one big Halloween prank, or he might have been in there looking to actually hurt someone. For all I knew, it was an armed robber, though, and I treated the situation as though my life were in danger.
Wow.
And there's your depression. Not just one symptom. There's lots of symptoms, Holden.
No one cares. Freaking hate ads.
My favorite
Like, I
month
wish
has
you
always
could-
been October.
I wish you could choose if you could have ads and not have ads.
It's that sweet spot temperature-wise. It's never too hot and never too cold. All the leaves start turning orange and brown, and you just get that nice, refreshing October breeze. My friends and I always used to like to rake up the leaves into a big pile and have wrestling matches in them when we were young. Like from the
I
ages
love
of
doing
9
that.
to 12. I think when we were about 10 or 11, it was towards the end of October, and a lot of the leaves had already fallen off the trees. Since my property was the biggest, my friends Liam and
Yo, I can't wait until like all the leaves fall, and then make like a big pile of leaves, and then like drive through them with my 4-wheeler or something. That would be fun. And then whenever it snows, what I wanted to do this for the last 2 years. I've been wanting to do this. It's making a snowman and then freaking lasering it or freaking spraying it with one of my airsoft guns or something, or pellet guns. That's gonna be fun.
Billy were helping me rake up the leaves on my property into a giant pile. It was a cloudy, windy day, getting a little late. The house we lived in at the time was a corner house with a huge space on the side next to the sidewalk, which ran into a short dead-end street with only 2 houses in it, one of which owned by an old stoner couple who didn't care about anything, and across the street from that was a small, disheveled house, whose owner never seemed to come outside. So this allowed us to be louder and more obnoxious without worry of a lot of neighbors watching or caring. We wrestled around for probably half an hour. Then we went inside after getting tired to have a snack and play video games. The two of them wanted to go back outside for a nighttime triple threat match in the leaves again. That's what we called our wrestling matches. We always acted like we were in the WWE. When we got back out there, it was almost completely dark, but a streetlight that stood in the dead end lit up this side of our property, so we could see enough. It seemed as though there were a lot less leaves in the pile right off the bat this time. We tried wrestling a little more, but the pile just spread too far, so we had to grab the rakes and start building the pile again. Liam noticed a long, oddly shaped pile that we didn't notice from before. He went over to start raking it over to our main pile, but he seemed to be having trouble. He shouted, "There's something under the leaves." We came over to help him brush some of the leaves off whatever was underneath, and all of us screamed when we realized there was a grown man hiding underneath the pile. We stepped back and looked at each other, and then back at him. We didn't know whether to laugh or not. Like, was he playing some kind of early Halloween prank on us? The man's face was not yet exposed. Liam and I dared Billy to go expose the man's face. He walked up to the body on the floor slowly, looked back at us, and started lightly kicking the leaves away from where the person's face would be. As he kicked, he realized the body was hollow and hard. There was no face or head. It was a fake body that someone planted there, some kind of prank. But who placed it there? Well, that question was quickly answered when we noticed someone hiding in my bush right behind the pile. We yelled, "We see you," to the man hiding in the bushes, and he came out laughing, screaming how he got us so good. But this man was older. He looked 60, and he looked scary and gross. Huge, bulging eyes, crooked teeth, and he was breathing very heavily. He said he planted that fake body there because he always watches us play in the leaves and thought it would be funny. That creeped me out, though, how he said he always watches us play in the leaves. Liam tried being nice, but I thought the man was weird. So I said, "Come on, guys, let's go inside," and we left the man there. I told my dad, and he went outside to check, but the man had already moved the fake body by then. We played video games the rest of the night, all having agreed that guy
No
was a
trick or treating this year.
My friends eventually left, and soon after I went to my room. I had my window open as usual to get a breeze into my room. I was watching TV when I heard a man's voice at my window. I jumped and looked up at the window, but I couldn't see who it was.
I just now turned on my sister's PS4. How am I gonna go turn it off? I accidentally turned on my sister's PS4. If she was awake, she would have gotten so scared. She would be like, "Oh, my TV just turned on by itself. What the heck? Oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. What the heck?" Literally, she screams so loud. Where's my charger? Okay, we're good. Yeah.
The voice said, "I didn't mean to creep you out earlier. I live in the house across the street over there. I like watching you kids play in the leaves." I was in shock, hearing a stranger's voice outside my window. I continued looking at the window, and eventually the familiar face of that freako from earlier came into view. He reached his arm under my window and pushed it up further as he attempted to climb into my window. When he realized he couldn't fit, it seemed he started to try to reach for me. I screamed for my dad and ran upstairs to his room. I tugged him out of his bed and led him to my window. The man was already gone, but I told him he lived in the house across the street at the dead end. My dad charged over to the house with me, banged on the door, but the man didn't answer. My dad called the cops.
Do I have to watch that every time I switch to Battle Pass? Okay. Wait, I have 2 new ones? Hold it. Hold it, won't see. I don't know where they are. This one? No, I've had that one. That's not one. Yo. I need to get like the Christmas ones. Where are the Christmas ones at? I know there was one. Right. I think I only have one. Yeah, I think... Wait, is this one? No. I think this is the only one that I have. Okay. Wait, I have another one of these? Yo, I'm putting that on. Okay.
And when they came, he took me back to the house with the police. And this time with the police, the man opened the front door, and it was in fact the same man. I was too young to be able to tell, but the police and my dad picked up on it right away that he was on something. Likely crystal meth is what my dad says. I remember looking into the house from the doorway and seeing that it was an absolute
Do you like
pigsty.
the Fortnite update?
Thinking back now, it would fit the description for the home
I
of
like
the
the
meth head
fishing.
perfectly. All those years living there, we were none the wiser that there was a creepy meth head living in that disheveled house, apparently watching my friends and I as we would play.
Why is there so many ads? No one cares.
This past October, I was talking to this girl I met at a party a month prior. For the purpose of this story, she'll be named Nikki. We had been talking and hanging out like once a week for a few weeks. She
I
wanted
hate
to do a
that.
bunch of October activity.
I don't know why, but I used to think like sunrises were so freaking scary. Like some days when I was like 8 or 9, I would like wake up like really early to play outside on the trampoline before I would get on the bus. And like as I'm like playing on the trampoline, the sunrise would come up, and I thought it was like so scary. I don't know why. Like I would be so scared.
So I came up
I
with
used
the
to
idea that
live
we go apple
by
picking.
woods,
She loved
like
it. So we
kind
hopped
of
in
a
the car to
forest.
take a trip to the nearest apple picking orchard, which was about a half-hour drive away, out of the suburbs to the more rural part of the area. We live in Jersey, so there's an abundance of places to go, but I let her pick where. It said we were still about 20 minutes away, and we were driving down a scenic road with little to no traffic. We actually passed what appeared to be another apple orchard, so we turned down this dirt road up to a small wooden farm-like house, but there were no cars, no people, not even a little stand where people would go to pay to enter. It seemed it wasn't open for business, or maybe it just wasn't open to the public at all. The house was very poorly kept. It almost looked as though nobody lived there. As we walked around the property, Nikki said she felt uncomfortable, so we got back in the car and continued the route to the originally planned destination. However, when we got there, this one was also void of people, though this one at least had a closed sign at the stand. I told her, what if we went back to that first orchard that looked almost abandoned and just go picking there? We'd have the whole place to ourselves. At first she was hesitant, but I convinced her. So I drove us back and found a low-key place to park on the grass by the woods. We walked through the crushing leaves on the dirt path. If we were trying to be discreet, that was out the window. There was a little wooden fence we had to hop, but it was easy. Once inside, we were hidden by the symmetrical rows of thick apple trees, but our feet were also covered in tall grass up to our shins. We started walking down the row of trees, filling the plastic bags we brought from my car with the best apples we could find, though admittedly there weren't many. There was a certain thrill in doing this, knowing we weren't supposed to. We had some fun with it. I would start launching apples up in the air, and then I would start pretending like I was going to throw apples at Nikki, and she started screaming, running off, telling me to stop. She cut through a couple trees to another row, and when I got to the other side, I didn't see her. "Where are you?" I said. She called back, "I'm picking my own apples," and she actually sounded like she was a few rows over. I apologized, laughing, telling her I'd stop, but she didn't answer. I spent a few minutes trying to find her, and suddenly an apple landed right in front of me, which had been tossed from one of the rows nearby. Then another one landed close by. I yelled stop because I was actually afraid of getting hit in the head. I ran through a couple trees, and each row I'd pass, I'd look left and right trying to find Nikki. I went down this row and went through the first couple of trees I came through to get to the next side. I looked left, and I actually felt like my heart launched up into my throat, because there was some guy, a young guy like 18 or 19-year-old, with long black hair to his shoulder, standing in the center of the row, maybe 5 trees away from me. It looked like he had a slight smirk on his face. He didn't move, so I did. I squeezed through to the next row and then the next. Then Nikki called my phone. I picked up in a hurry and whispered, "Where are you?" She sounded like she was in a panic. She said into the phone there was a creepy guy following her around. She tried talking to him, but he wouldn't say anything, and he looked like he wanted to hurt her, and her description of him matched the guy I just saw. I told her to meet me back at the car. I ran the way back, and Nikki was already waiting at the car. We stopped to discuss what just happened, but Nikki yelled, "There he is," and pointed in front of us. I looked, and I could see him. He was half hidden by an apple tree, could only see his left arm, left leg, and half his face. The way he was just creepily spying on us, I had to get us away. I did a 3-point turn off the grass onto the dirt road. We passed the decrepit barn-like house and got back on the road. We talked over possibilities. Maybe he lived there. We passed by a fruit stand on the side of the road with a few
Parents
people
walked down the hall, so I
Nikki and
moved
I
it for
lost
a
our
minute.
apple bags, so we figured we'd at least stop here. We picked up some apples and berries, and I just had to ask them about the apple orchard down the road. The 2 ladies working the fruit stand proclaimed nobody should ever go anywhere near there. The owner's son had killed his girlfriend and then disappeared. Her body was found near the orchard in the forest. The dad still owns the orchard to this day, but he hardly ever returns and doesn't keep up with the police. We practically jumped in their faces as we asked them to describe the son, but they had never seen him and don't know anything about him. I admitted to them that we went apple picking on the property, and some creepy young man was following us. The 2 women said that it was best that we got out of there when we did. They also kind of scolded us for not calling the police. However, one of the ladies said she was going to warn the police. On the drive home, as Nikki spoke,
I invited one of my friends to a party chat because I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting a little scared. Just a little. I'll be less scared if like someone else is with me. And my friend is not joining the party chat. He needs to join the freaking party chat like now. I'm about to freaking call someone on Snapchat. Or freaking I'm gonna invite like a bunch of people to my party chat, just a lot of random people. This might not be a good idea, but whatever. No, he joined. He just now joined. Yo.
What do you want?
I'm getting a little scared. I'm getting a little scared. I'm listening to Mr. Nightmare.
It is all just a bit of hocus pocket.
It's It's all a little bit of Hocus Pocket. What? I'm streaming right now and there's someone watching, and he said it's just a lot of Hocus Pocket.
Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, Hocus Pocus. Okay, I'm gonna keep listening to Mr. Nightmare. Tell me if this gets annoying, zombie.
Damn little correct.
I was 22 years old, attending a Halloween party at my former best friend Nick's house, who died of a heroin overdose in 2013. Before his death, he would throw big Halloween parties every year at his house, as his parents routinely flew to New York every year to attend their own friend's party. He was always a big Halloween freak, so the whole house was littered with truly horrifying props that we all knew Nick spent way too much money on. He even put up giant walls of cardboard and covered them with wallpapers to create a haunted maze of sorts. I want to keep this story PG-13 rated, so I'll skip the weed, beer, LSD, and sex, and get right to the part where things got bad. I'll admit, we weren't in our right minds. None of us were. Anyone who came to Nick's parties knew what went down. Me, Nick, and a few other guys, Vinny G, Joey, and Q, were upstairs in Nick's room smoking a bong when we heard two steady, loud bangs come from downstairs. Nick clumsily but panickingly rushed to open the door and see what was going on.
That sounds like
There
clapping
were sounds of
cheeks.
screaming of both guys and girls. I remember quite clearly it sounded as if there were a crowd of people screaming for their lives down there.
They're probably clapping those alien cheeks up there.
We all called Nick to come back in and shut the door.
Why does it always have to be alien? Fuck.
Because the Area 51 meme is still not gone.
15-1?
What?
You said 15-1.
Is it? Whatever.
What's going on?
Jesus. Why
Nick
that
ran back inside
area?
and shut the door quickly, but
Area
also quietly, locking it
15-1,
behind him.
151.
50.
Had on the facial expression of someone who had just witnessed murder. What
15
did you see? What's going
Okay.
on? We all shouted at him.
It's
He
my
told us to hide before anything else. We all knew why. From that point on, we didn't ask questions. Nick hid the lights and hid in the closet with Joey, while I hid under the bed with Q, and Vinny G hid in the storage box.
I'm gonna go get a blanket.
We could hear the blasting music from downstairs turn off.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep Mr. Nightmare
Shut up.
rolling. How did I catch that?
Unfortunate girl let out a scream of shock and fear, and after another bang, silence.
They're still clapping those
Started
alien
shouting at
cheeks.
everyone again, but personally I
Shut the
couldn't hear it
fuck
too
up.
well, and I certainly
MOT
as remember
alien.
exactly what he was shouting.
Alien
We
cheeks.
heard two other
Fucking
men shouting. By
psychopath.
now there were a confirmed 3 intruders in the house, but there could have been more for all we knew at that point.
What?
The sound of boots stomping up the stairs and then coming halfway down the hall.
I didn't say
and
nothing.
stopping inside the bedroom door. The intruder on the other side of the door tried the doorknob, but when he realized it was locked, he started ramming into the door with most likely his shoulder. After a
I
few
just now
attempts at
washed
that, the
this,
sound of the
so
few
it
shots
smells
to the
good.
doorknob were clearly enough to break the lock, allowing the door to swing open. We heard cries from downstairs after the shots to the doorknob, followed by silence and gunshot. Me and Nick had our hands on our mouths to shield our breathing noises. I watched through the transparent cloth that hung from the bottom of Nick's bed as the black boots with overlapping ripping.
Yo, if I
dents
turn off this
and
light right here,
into the
there's like
closet.
no light.
He opened the
Like
door.
for real.
I could hear Nick begging for the intruder not to kill him, offering a generous amount of money if they would
Down
leave.
the fresh.
Nick gave himself up as the house owner. That's when the intruder ordered him downstairs. The rest of us stayed put. Apparently Joey hadn't been caught with Nick. He stayed up in bed, shaking and afraid. There was near silence from downstairs, other than Nick talking with the intruders, but whatever they were saying was much too low for us to hear. It felt like a near 20 minutes before the front door slammed shut, and Nick came running back upstairs to tell us that they were gone. I think the most horrifying moment of my life was when I stepped downstairs, back into the living room, and saw the 2 dead bodies laying lifelessly on the ground. Holes in their heads spewing out blood. Jen and Robbie, 2 good friends that I still miss. I'll spare you the details of what happened when the police arrived, but despite the fact that the house smelled like a marijuana greenhouse, the police were more interested in finding out who the masked men were that killed 2 innocent college students. Oh yeah, Nicky told the four of us who were hiding in his room that there were 4 intruders in total, all wearing fedoras, vendetta masks, coats, and gloves. They demanded $100,000 in cash, and when Nick could not provide it, they demanded he fill their empty sack with his most valued possessions. All of the partygoers held hostage in the room were also forced to throw their wallets into the sack or they would be shot. After the incident, Nick became depressed. He started drinking too much, becoming an alcoholic. He stopped showing up to school, ultimately ended up dropping out. He started the use of heavier drugs, such as meth and heroin. I had one good talk with him since the incident, and he was more real during this talk than he had ever been. He told me, with tears rolling down his cheeks and a pipe in his hand, he lived in constant pain, knowing he caused the death of 2 of his best friends. Nick died of a heroin overdose in July of 2013, not even a year after the incident.
Wow.
It was my first Halloween living in my own house away from my parents. I live in a small corner house with a basement but no upstairs, a house my parents paid half for. It was 11 o'clock at night, and I was sitting in the living room watching scary Halloween movies when I found myself getting up to answer a knock at the door. But then I stopped and thought, who could be at the door at 11 p.m.? Surely there were no more trick-or-treaters out. I had a pretty
11?
good feeling it was a late
That's
night
like
Halloween
when I
ding-dong
would
ditcher.
stop
So I gave it a
trick-or-treating.
second.
Wait,
Then I shot a glance to the boys through the
trick-or-treating?
window.
What
They
the
were
heck?
gone already. Yup, ding-dong ditchers. I sat back down, not thinking twice about it, and again, knocking at the front door.
I might do
"Get
some
lost,"
ding-dong
I
ditches.
yelled. I was not
I
in
don't
the
know.
mood for punky kids. They ignored my demands and started pounding now, not just knocking. I was pissed now. I leaped up and swung the door open. No one was there once again. I slipped on my shoes and headed outside to begin
You
searching
going
for
this
the
year?
kids, but there was nobody in sight. Not in the bushes, not behind my car, not across the street.
I do not know what you
I
just
was not
commented.
answering.
I'm
I
pretty
didn't
sure
want to
you
leave
said,
until
what are you
so
going
I
to
went
be
back
this year?
inside, double-locked
I'm
the
going to
door.
be
Once my
Spider-Man,
bed, also locked
I
that
think,
door, just to feel
because
safer, I guess.
there are some
Even
girls
over
that
the
call me
TV, I
Peter
could still hear the
Parker
stupid
at
kids
school,
pounding on my
so,
front door repeatedly.
because I kinda do look like Peter Parker.
I was so close to calling the cops to get them away, but that would undoubtedly lead to my house being egged or TP'd. The pounding continued for an uncomfortably long time, more than half an hour. I thought these kids must be filming something for YouTube and were desperate for a reaction, but I wasn't going to give it to them. At some point I dozed off with the TV on, only to wake up to the knocking again. I looked at the clock. It was 2 in the fucking morning. How could those kids still be at it, I thought. I turned the TV off and sat up with my ears open. For a few moments, my heart completely stopped as I realized the knocking was not at my front door, but rather at my bedroom door. What? I jumped out of bed, looking around
I
my
like
room
it.
like a madman for something to use as a weapon. They knew I was awake now. They were trying the doorknob, trying to bust down the door. These weren't any kids. By some miracle, I came up with an idea. It was a long shot, but it was all I could think of. I turned on the receiver to my speaker system, plugged in my iPhone, brought up the YouTube app, typed in 45 gunshot sound effect, turned on the volume and pressed play. The sound of a gunshot echoed out of the speakers. It sounded real enough. I paused the video after the first shot and yelled, "That was a warning shot. Leave now or I won't hesitate to shoot you in the head." And it worked. I heard 2 pairs of footsteps stomping over my wood floors and out the front door. I gave it a moment before opening my bedroom door and peeking outside. They were gone, but the front door was left wide open. I quickly shut it, called the police, and that's where my story ended.
What?
So I was never really a big Halloween person. Mostly because I grew up without many friends, and once I passed the age of 10, I couldn't use the excuse of going with my mom anymore. And it's not like I had friends to go with. So this last Halloween, I was 14 years old. And I do have a little sister who's only 8.
Lock the door.
So my mom went trick-or-treating with her.
I don't have a lock on my
One really
door.
good friend, Steve, already had plans and I didn't want to impose, so it didn't seem like I'd be trick-or-treating this year. I felt a tiny part of me explode with happiness on the inside when my mom asked me to stay home and hand out candies. Now I felt like I had a job to do that didn't involve me trick-or-treating alone like a loser. My mom left with my sister at about 6 o'clock, about an hour after she got home from work. She told me to expect her back around 9, so I was relaxing on the couch in the living room, watching the Scary Movie marathon on AMC, and occasionally answering the door to give candy to the kids. And while doing that, the kitchen phone began to ring. I remember the ringer was set so loud it actually made me jump. I picked up the phone, and the other end remained silent, except for a bit of fumbling and background noise. Sounds you'd expect when somebody's holding a phone. I think I said hello about 5 times before the person on the other end hung up.
So the real question, the girls that they you look like Peter Parker, are they cute?
What else could I do but ignore it? That worked well enough for the next few minutes, watching TV, answering the phone, until the phone rang again. Same unknown number coming up on the caller ID. I wanted to see where this was going, so I picked it up once more. This time I could hear a very faint breathing on the other end. "All right, Steve, I know it's you," I said into the phone. They hung up.
To the next city.
By this point, I didn't want to say I was scared, but I was for sure a bit uneasy. It was a long time before that phone rang again. It was getting later, darker, and the doorbell seemed to be ringing less and less. I was watching the original Friday the 13th when it happened again. The sound of that phone ringing had become sickening, as I knew who it would be, or rather, I didn't. For some reason, I gave in again and picked up. And once again, silence.
I would just like unplug the phone or something.
It was like this for almost half a minute before they finally spoke in an exaggerated deep voice. "I'll be paying you a visit tonight." I had enough of this joke.
Oh, yo, if that was me, I'll be like, come at me, bruh. I'm just gonna freaking get my shotgun.
I'd say about half an hour later, out of the blue, all the power in the house was cut. The lights went out. The TV turned off. Complete darkness. I stood up, now frozen in fear, when loud and angry thumping came from the front door. I completely lost it and began screaming like a girl, but there was something coming from outside. Laughter. I recognized that laughter. I opened the door, and there he was. Stephen. I shoved him nearly down the steps out of anger. "So, that was you who made those dumb phone calls?" I asked. He nodded while laughing. "I didn't sound like you on the phone. Let me hear you do that voice again," I said. "What?" He seemed confused. "I didn't say anything, you idiot. I just called and did that heavy breathing." I thought he was lying at first. But then my heart dropped. I had him follow me to the fuse box outside. Just as I feared, it had been opened and all the wires had been snipped. I think we ran faster than any Olympic champions back into the house. I called my mom, who told us to stay inside and wait for the police. She then called.
You what?
The call was traced to a payphone outside of a nearby bar. I still wonder, was this just a dumb Halloween prank gone too far? Or was it a potential break-in? And God knows what else
Roll,
we had.
Stephen.
I don't think I ever want to find out. When I was younger, my friends and I went trick-or-treating every year. This one particular year, as we were trick-or-treating, we passed a man who stood still with a mask on, holding a lantern. As we walked past him, he turned his whole body around and followed us with his eyes. We were creeped out, but there were plenty of people around, so we made our way to the next house. My friends and I saw him over and over again. As we made our way from house to house, he seemed to be following us in typical horror story form. We walked so slow, we couldn't figure out how he kept up with us.
Good night, Welland.
When we hadn't seen him for a while, we got our candy. As we turned around to walk back to the street, the masked man stood in the road waiting for us. Immediately, we knocked back on the door and told the owners of the house about it. The masked man continued walking down the street, and we didn't see him again that night. Later on,
Yo, this guy talks more intense than Mr. Nightmare.
The old friend of the family told us he saw a masked man hiding behind a tree, waving little kids over, and he only backed off when he threatened to call the police.
I was trick-or-treating with my friend Casey. We were both 11 years old at the time. We were walking across a small wooden bridge over a small river that many called Jack Winkle River, when a black Jeep pulled up on the other side of the bridge, basically blocking our way. We turned around and hurried away. We were the types of kids to obey the stranger danger rules. We could hear the windows of the Jeep rolling down, and a man with a raspy smoker's voice called for us to come back. He was yelling for help, asking us for directions. I yelled sorry, and we continued to hurry away. The Jeep couldn't fit over that small bridge, so it pulled away and drove down the road on the other side. We thought we had made our escape from the creepy driver, when here came an SUV barreling around the corner and down the street, slamming on the brakes in front of us. Once again, the driver rolled down the windows. Now with them right next to us, we could see there were 2 passengers in the car as well. An old guy with gray curly hair and a mustache in the backseat, who also had a raspy smoker's voice, told us to get in the car, that they have free bags of candy. The Jeep banged a 3-point turn and tailed us wherever we went. At one point, the Jeep finally accelerated past us, came to a stop, and the back and front passenger side doors opened, and the 2 creepy men stepped out lunging at us. We dropped our bags of candy and ran straight for my house, which was in sight now. We rang the doorbell desperately at least 20 times. The old men that were chasing us couldn't run fast. When they saw us running to my house, they turned back. My mom opened the door, and we screamed and pointed at the Jeep that was backing away in the other direction. She shoved us inside and locked the door and called the police and ran them off the door. She reported a black Jeep with 3 men, raspy voices, and any other descriptions we gave. My mom was freaking out all night, worried about the fact that they knew where we lived now. My dad tried to calm her, but she couldn't calm down. Ultimately, the police agreed to send an unmarked police car to stay out front and keep guard for 3 hours. That made my mom feel a little better, but what made us all feel better was when my dad woke us up to see the flashing red and blue lights outside of the unmarked police car. They had pulled over an SUV, a black Jeep, and 3 men were in cuffs. The 3 old creeps that tried to kidnap me and Casey. My dad went outside to talk to the officer and most likely confirmed that those were the men. Me and Casey went to the doorway and screamed at the men for their attention. They looked, and we both gave them the finger. My mom then pulled us back in and shut the door, sending us to bed. We went from the worst night of both of our lives to ultimately the best night of our lives. This story took place on Halloween night. I took my 7-year-old daughter Jamie trick-or-treating for a few hours, and when we got back, I cooked dinner, we watched TV together, and then I sent her to bed. I was feeling especially tired that night, so I brushed up and went to sleep. Shortly after, my daughter entered the room and told me there was someone in her closet. I assured her there was no one in her closet. She asked to sleep with me, but I once again assured her that she was safe in her room. She reluctantly went back to her room and shut the door. I made a mental note that if she came back again, I would walk her to her closet and show her that there's no one in there. Surely enough, 5 minutes later she came back. I asked her why she thought there was someone in her closet. She responded saying she heard someone moving around and things falling over. Honestly, when she said that, it kind of made my heart jump for a second. I walked her to her room and turned on the lights. I jokingly asked, "Is anybody in there?"
It feels good.
We stood and listened. I
Let me
didn't
try
expect
it.
to hear anything. There it was. A thud from inside
Try
the
it.
closet. I screamed at
No,
Jamie to run to the
let me put
neighbor's
it
door.
order. Do
As
it,
she
it feels
did,
good,
I
bro.
swung the door open and was shocked to find the neighbor's son,
Put this
Randy,
now on.
sitting on top of my daughter's Lego box. I grabbed him by the collar of his shirt and yanked him up aggressively. I walked him angrily back to his parents' house next door and found Jamie ringing the doorbell. When they answered, I shoved him inside right into his father and explained everything. I told him I wouldn't press charges, but if I ever caught him near my daughter again, they would all be sorry. Randy's dad, Mark, slapped him across the face, then asked me to come inside to allow Randy to explain himself. Me and Jamie both went inside. Apparently, while I was taking Jamie trick-or-treating, he had snuck into our house through an open window and hid in our closet with his friend Daryl.
Almost Netflix.
I asked him if this Daryl kid was still in my house. He said yes. I told Jamie to wait with Mark while I ran back into my house, and right as I entered, there he was. This Daryl kid, uglier and shadier looking than Randy. He had my daughter's underwear in his hand. What I did next was completely out of fatherly protective anger. I grabbed the little shit by the throat and threw him to the floor, slapping him 4 times in the face, then hesitantly allowing him to get up and leave. The only reason I didn't call the police was because of my close friendship with Mark.
Hey, dude, I'm gonna go
I
and
made my
watch
point very
Netflix.
strongly that if they ever so even waved to my daughter again, they would be in the news the next day. We went back to sleep. I let Jamie sleep with me after that incident. She was horrified. The next morning, I found a small drill hole in her closet door. The sick little bastards were spying on my daughter while she slept, at the same time playing with her underwear. Maybe you don't understand the horror of this story unless you're a parent, but there are many days where I think I made a mistake not calling the police. I still can, but nothing has happened since, and I figure I shouldn't create more trouble now. Jamie's 13 now, and that creep Randy has since gone away to college.
We had just moved into our large new house in Mississauga, Ontario, in an area called Winston Churchill. It was Halloween night, and my parents, my 4 other sisters, my brother, and I were unpacking our stuff in our new bedrooms. We had just finished and were talking to each other about leaving our old schools and friends behind. My mother called us to do chores. I was really tired since it was 11:30 at night, way past the trick-or-treating buzz, and we had to do chores now? It seemed to take forever, but when I was done, I decided to go to my bedroom and get some sleep. I heard what sounded like footsteps in the upstairs hallway. Thinking it was my brother or sister, I got up to shout at them for bothering me while I was sleeping, but there, as far as I could tell, there was no one there. I rushed down to the basement where my parents, sister, and brother were considerately working. I asked them all if they had been upstairs, and they replied no. Now I was getting pretty freaked out, but I had to believe it was just my imagination and shrugged it off as if it had never happened. I went back to my bed, which was now freezing cold. I had to put on a sweater. It was just too cold. I woke up in the middle of the night around 12:30 a.m., after everyone had gone to sleep. I heard this loud banging sound that seemed to be coming from my parents' bedroom. I thought it might be my brother or sister waiting to get a drink of water, but was too scared to go alone. I was wrong. The banging continued, getting louder by the minute. I couldn't get to sleep, so I decided to check it out. I walked into the hallway, and believe me, there was no one there. As I walked in, the banging seemed to stop. I stared at the door, only for a quick moment before deciding to go back to bed. After a couple of minutes, the banging started again. Now I was totally chilled to my very last bone. I tried to sleep again, but I couldn't. Very typical of me. The door to my bedroom creaked open, as if someone were pushing it lightly. But it was too dark to see who or what could have caused it. Hey, what the hell are you doing? Who is it? Let me go back to sleep. Very light footsteps began to move closer to my bed. I thought it was one of my sisters, until I turned onto my side after the footsteps stopped and saw a figure standing next to my bed. A figure at least 7 feet tall. I choked the urge to scream. Nothing came out. I lay there in unimaginable horror as the figure finally said, "Boo." That was when I screamed at the top of my lungs and covered my eyes, when my parents thrust open the door to my room and flicked on the light. There was no figure there. There was no figure by my bed. I cried out everything to them, the thumping, the figures. My siblings came into the doorway and watched me freak out. I asked my parents if they heard the knocking on their door. Surely they must have. It was their door after all. But they said there was no knocking. Not that they knew of. They all looked at me like I was crazy. But I know I'm not. You can't just imagine something like that. Something so real. I'll never forget this night. I know I won't. It was a few years ago, Halloween night. We were all 20 years old. Right at that age, we're going to haunted house attractions. Is one of the best things to do on Halloween. The attraction was called Scarehouse Journey to the Basement or something. It was only open for 4 straight years in our town. It was never heard of again. This was its 4th and final year of operation. It was a very high quality and surprisingly scary haunted house. One of the best ones I've been to. This was not a tour guided attraction. It was a group exploration attraction. Basically, a maze where the only way out was to make your way to the basement. Find one of the keys, then find the exit and use the key you found to unlock the door. It was a very unique haunted house, that's for sure. Unfortunately, it wasn't a good night for us. And you're about to learn why. We started out in the living room of the house. To give as much detail as I can about the room, there was a giant open coffin sitting right smack in the middle of the room. There were very convincing spider webs covering just about every inch of every corner of the room. All the furniture was antique and dusty looking, and of course, blood was stained on the creaky wood floor. We could tell right away this haunted house was going to be great. The next room was the dining room. That was where things got creepy. The rooms following the dining room were all very dimly lit by artificial lanterns hooked onto the walls. On several occasions, actors jumped out at us in horrifically convincing costumes as expected. And yet they still got me every time. We actually spent a lot of time going in circles trying to find the basement. This wasn't a real wide-open house. It was designed to be like a maze, with many rooms and fake doors. It took a long time for us to finally find the basement door, and I have to admit, I was nervous to go down there. It was completely pitch black down there. We started to think that it might have been an employees-only area where they kept props. It was just too dark down there to see. It was stated many times that no cell phones were allowed while in the attraction, so we couldn't use cell phone screens as lights. If we wanted to get out of there, we had no choice but to go down there. Each step created a creak more painful to the ears than fingernails scratching on a chalkboard. We were all laughing, telling each other how fucking freaked out we were. I had my hands out in front of me as if I was searching for anything in the complete darkness. I banged into somebody and apologized. Who was that? I asked, expecting it to be one of my friends. No answer. Whoever I just bumped into placed their hand on my shoulder, and I took off running and screaming while at the same time laughing. There was something so disturbing about being in that huge pitch-black basement, knowing someone was in there with us. One of my friends thankfully found a key on a desk in the corner of the room. We all ran back upstairs, back to the light, and found the exit door. The actual experience and process of getting through that maze of a haunted house was much longer than my story makes it out to be, but that's not where things got horrifying. Right outside the exit door was a small bin with a sign that said, "Drop keys here, please." That's how the staff would collect the keys and bring them back down to the basement. Halfway off the premises of the haunted house, the exit door opened, and a really tall person dressed in a black robe and bloody pig mask stepped out and started following in our direction. He, or she, though it was most likely a he, so I'll refer to them as a he, appeared to be one of the staff members for the attraction. As we walked further away from the attraction, so did the guy in the costume. It seemed to all of us that he was following us by this point. One of my friends called, "We don't have the key if that's what you want. We dropped it in the little bin." But that didn't do the trick. As a joke, we started running just to see if he would too, and he did. We stopped, and so did he. We stood still, and so did he. At first it was funny, maybe it was just a joke, but as we got closer to my friend Eddie's house, we were starting to discuss if we should reveal where he lives to this guy. He had been following us for at least 5 blocks now, so if it was a joke, it had gone far enough. Eddie's parents were both home, so we felt safe to go inside. Apparently, Eddie's front door was broken, whatever that meant, so we had to go run back. We jokingly waved at the douchebag still following us, then walked to Eddie's backyard, shutting the gate behind us. Wiping our feet on his welcome mat on the back door, we heard the gate open. The man emerged from behind the side of the house and began walking towards us once again. This time, much faster. Eddie opened the back door and called to his dad, telling him to get his gun. This seemed to grab the masked man's attention. He slowed down, turned his head to face Eddie. Eddie's dad emerged, angry as hell, and aimed his pistol at the masked coward. He raised his hands up and cried out for him not to shoot, that he's only 27. Eddie's dad told him to get lost and never come back, and the next time he wouldn't think twice about pulling the trigger. Personally, I wish Eddie's dad had made the guy get on his knees and take off the mask, then call the police. That guy got off too easily. For all we know, he could have been armed as well. We contacted the haunted house attraction, and they informed us that they had no such employee dressed in a pig mask.
I was driving on the back roads, on the edge of city limits. It was dark, no lighting at all, a few rest stops here and there. I was meeting a woman off of Craigslist, already feeling a bit nervous. I was going pretty fast, no other cars in sight. Out of nowhere I see a guy running across the road. He was already almost right in front of my car. It looked like he was getting chased by another guy, who I didn't see until I swerved to avoid the first one while braking hard. My car went kind of sideways and hit the second guy pretty fierce, not at full speed. I heard a loud thud, but didn't actually see him get hit. My car ended up on the side of the road.
The first guy seems to have kept running out of sight. He wasn't there when I got out. This was a huge red flag for me, but I just hit somebody and was worried I had killed them. I was shaky and had that sinking feeling in my stomach. I ran towards the guy who was on the floor breathing heavily. Thank God he was alive. I asked him if he was okay. He didn't respond. He just kept breathing really hard. Then I took out my phone to call 911. As I was typing the number, that's when I just heard him say, "No, don't call anyone. Don't call the cops." He said it pretty alarmed. So I just looked over at him with my phone in my hand with the flash on. I asked him if he could stand. He got up slowly with a slight limp, with my light shining on him. I could see his clothes were all tattered, and he was wearing 2 layers of clothes with a jacket, now torn at the arms. He had blood on his arms, I guess from when he landed on the ground. He said, "I'm fine. Do you have any cigarettes?" I said, "Yeah, let me go get them." I had a pack in my glove box since forever. I was an occasional smoker and only smoked with my coworker, but not in a while. We walked over to my car and I got the cigarettes and I handed them to him. Then I put my phone on the charger. The car was still on. As I did, he asked for a lighter. I said, "Yeah, hold on, let me look for it." While lighting his cigarette, that's when I asked him, "Who was the other guy?" He said, "Someone stole my backpack from me when I was sleeping." Oh, okay, he was definitely a homeless man. I felt so bad. I started pulling out my wallet. I wanted to give him all the money in my wallet out of guilt. He looked fine now, minus the blood-scraped arms, and his breathing had gotten normal. While pulling out my wallet and asking, "You sure you don't want me to call an ambulance?" That's when I felt the sharpest pain rock my face. I saw all blurry for a couple of seconds. I started stumbling. My body felt like I was about to fall over. I was dizzy. When I came to, I saw my car pulling away and driving off. He punched me and took off, left me with a pretty bad headache. I stood there in shock for what seemed like an eternity. I reached for my phone out of instinct. Then I remembered I left it charging. Crap. I reached under my jacket to see if my gun was still on me. I felt relieved when I felt my gun on my side. Okay, good. At least I'm not out here defenseless. I kept walking down the road endlessly, hoping to find somebody. I'm pissed off and I'm scared at this point. A few good miles later, I see some lights. As I get closer, I see it's one of those public restrooms, with nothing else in sight. But that's good, there might be a payphone. Now what do I see next? I couldn't believe my eyes. There's a car that looks just like mine parked right out front. I take a peek. The guy that took my car is asleep. Looks like he cleaned his arms off. No jacket. That moron, he could have kept driving, but I'm glad he didn't. I took out my gun and tried to open the door. It's locked. I tried all the doors, but they were all locked. I didn't want to wake him up by banging on the car, because I was afraid he was going to drive off again. I looked all over the ground. Nothing to break the window. So I holstered my gun, take off my jacket and wrap it around my hand. I smash through it, glass spilling everywhere. The guy jerks awake and starts fumbling around. All the while, I drop the jacket and rapidly unholster my gun again. I'm pointing my gun right at his head. He says, "Please don't shoot me," instead of saying sorry for what he did. I tell him to get out of the car and walk towards the wall with his back turned. So I backed up and he complied. I tell him not to move, and then I ask him where my keys are. After I get my keys from him, I drove off, with glass all over my car. I never called the police because I had hit him earlier, and then because I pulled a gun on him. I was scared and worried about the legality of it. Also, I had bought it from Arms List, but the seller never signed the bill of sale, only I did, so I was sketched out about that as well. Last thing I need is them checking out my gun after he tells them about it, and finding out the guy who sold it to me reported it as stolen. I probably would have been fine calling them, but I was worried, and I never met the Craigslist girl. I ended up only just going home. Everyone has that one set of neighbors that you love to hate. They're always partying late into the crack of dawn, throwing their trash on your side of the yard, asking to borrow things. Not to gatekeep having bad neighbors, but I feel like the year of hell these neighbors caused my family was way worse than the most normal awful neighbors. I'll let you decide. It's hard to condense so much stuff into this story, and I still feel like the story will be kind of long. Setting-wise, a house across from ours was up for rent, and this would become the gateway to the hell that ensues. We knew the person who owned the house, so some of this will be stuff that she told us afterwards. The first sign of trouble started when they moved in, driving their moving truck onto the driveway and parking a nice Lexus on the lawn. For the kind of people that would come to live there, a Lexus was definitely suspect, but parking cars on the lawn became a daily habit that killed the lawn over time. Another red flag was the number of people that came and went as the weeks went by. No one knew the true amount of people that lived there, but the regulars were as follows: an overweight blonde, a somewhat more decent brunette with glasses, a hideous rat-looking punk boy, a teenage twig girl who looked like she was a prostitute in her spare time, and two small toddlers, a boy and a girl. This new addition to the neighborhood quickly claimed their spot as the loudest people in the neighborhood, with seemingly endless parties and arguments that would last for hours at a time. They had the foulest mouths you could ever imagine, and even the youngest child could be heard saying words that no younger person should ever be exposed to. Though the days were nice, we couldn't open our windows unless we wished to hear the vulgar music that was blasting through an open garage door, as one of the teens worked on a dented shell of a car every evening. A real selling point was the small toddlers would be left outside in the front yard to fend for themselves for hours on end. These people were clearly living on welfare and other such government programs, and the most annoying thing they did, come the first full month they were there, was to ask for things. The brunette lady was, more often than not, the one who showed up at our door, often with a child on her hip, one in tow behind her. The requests weren't anything weird at first, sugar, eggs, things like that, and my mom was too nice to refuse them. Then the requests became more strange. They asked for diapers, an electric griddle to make grilled cheese, which they surprisingly did return eventually, and once they asked if they could charge their phone for a while. I guess they were behind on their bills and the electricity got shut off, something that would happen a lot more frequently in the future. The highlight of this story has yet to come. All of this is nothing compared to what happened next. It was a hot summer day, one that makes you feel like you are moving in slow motion and can't think properly. I just happened to look outside, and to my horror, I witnessed the young teen girl dragging a screaming toddler into the house after he had been running around outside by himself, and shut the mesh screen door behind her. I could still make out the figure of the girl, who began to kick the child and call him all sorts of bad words. I quickly called my mom, who stomped outside to tell her to stop or she would call the police. The girl called her nosy and shut the door. Just as my mom finished calling Child Protective Services, the blonde lady, her gangly teen son, and the violent teenage girl were pounding at our door, thirsting for blood. My mother slowly drew up the blinds and eased the window open a crack, stating that she would not open the door. The nasty woman then proceeds to yell at my mother for not staying out of other people's business, and that she should just F off. This went on for almost half an hour before my mom had enough. My mother calmly explained that as long as she had to witness such cruel acts and foul mouths, she wasn't going to stay out of their business, and that if they don't get off of her property, she would call the police. She shut the window and closed the blinds, despite all their curses. Not long after, the police were called for similar reasons by our other neighbors, and the family was finally given a warning and an eviction date. They stayed weeks after the water and power had been cut off. When they realized that they had to move out or be arrested, they did everything in their power to destroy and deface the house that they were staying in. The landlady was in tears as she gave my mother a tour of the now vacant house. Windows had been smashed, sinks were ripped out and tossed into the yard, walls were riddled with holes and foul graffiti, toilets were backed up with human waste, and whatever they couldn't take with them was destroyed. It's been some time, and that same house has been filled with a new family, but the memory is still very fresh. I hope nobody ever has to encounter those neighbors. To get this started, to some it might not sound scary, but having a stranger press against you and block you from leaving is horrifying, especially when you're young. Normally I try to cover for my mother, but as I've grown older, I kind of blame her a bit, especially after what she said. She just loves to invalidate her oldest daughter. I'd say I was around 8 at the time that this took place. At the time, we had to get mail from the post office in town. And so seeing my mom get the mail, my brain decided, wow, I want to be cool like my mom and get the mail. That childish need to prove that I was mature. Eventually, after time and time of begging, my mom let me get the mail. Now to the actual story. I guess it was a weekend as the post office was closed, but you could still grab mail. Just no people that worked there were there. I asked my mom if I could grab the mail as we slowly pulled up outside the post office. She nodded and gave me the keys that had the mail key and a few others. The keys were loud and jingly. I jumped out the old van and ran up the ramp to the building, avoiding the stairs completely. I opened the door and saw a lady and a man getting their mail, but turning to my side I saw an older man sitting in the corner staring at me. He gave me weird vibes, even as a kid. But still I gave him a real quick smile and a wave. That was a bad move. The man smiled back, revealing his stained teeth. I walked past him and went to the mailbox. Me being me, though, I forgot what key it was, and began fumbling awkwardly as the others grabbing mail left the building. After maybe 3 to 5 minutes of trying and failing, I finally unlocked it. I was so happy that I disregarded the man staring as I grabbed the mail. With a quick click of the lock, I closed the box and began to walk away. I found the gaze of the man as he looked at me, a crooked smile across his face. The look he gave me still gives me chills to this day, almost a decade later. I put my open hand against the door and began to push when a pair of arms reached around me. One hand forcefully pulling the door shut, and the other around the upper part of my chest, like my collarbone, pulling me into a tight, unwelcomed, and horrible hug. I froze. What was I supposed to do? I was always taught to respect adults, and I did. He had a strong scent of alcohol on him, so much that I think I coughed a few times. He began to speak after a moment of just holding me there. The words he spoke scared me so bad, but now I only remember part of what he said, and I wished I didn't. Hey, where are you going? He spoke almost passive-aggressively. Oh, I have to go. My mom is waiting for me. Oh, okay. He sounded defeated and began to let me go. Before I could break away, he held me tighter again, tighter than before. Wait. I have a dog, you know. He had that stupid grin on his face, that scary grin. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. You should come with me and you can play with him. The scary thing is, though, I almost went with him at that moment. The next 8 minutes felt like hours as he let me go and pulled me back hard into him, his scruffy beard and soft, dirty coat brushing against me. The details make my head hurt to remember, but he kept telling me no, almost ordering me to go with him. Finally, he seemed to snap. All right, you're coming with me. What? But I need my mom. I have her keys and she's waiting for me, please. That was still my priority, her keys in the mail. Nope, you're coming with me now, he said. He opened the door and began to pull me out. In a moment of his weakness, I broke away, running to my mom in her car. I slammed the door shut, scaring my brother and my mom. I began shaking and crying, dropping the mail on the car floor. I shakily picked it up and handed everything to my mom as she demanded to know what happened. I told her everything and she looked pissed. I was so glad she was on my side. I looked outside, tears still streaming down my face, and I noticed the man looking at me through the car window from the top ramp of the building. I began to cry harder and panic as he started coming over. My mom stopped me as she noticed him coming. What was her reason for thinking he was completely harmless? He fell at the bottom of the ramp. He tripped. My mom laughed at the creep and started driving away, while she tried to comfort me, saying things like, he was just a harmless old drunk guy. He didn't hurt you. Now, years later, I brought it up to my dad when I was at his house, thinking he knew. My mom never told him, so he was angry, but I calmed him down. He was pissed that my mom didn't come for me sooner, and that she hadn't done more. I told him not to confront my mom on this, and he agreed. Now, not long after telling my dad, I brought it up to my mom. My mom said I was being a drama queen, that I would never get hurt, that he never tried anything. I was furious, but now I don't know if I should be. I mean, I know drunk slurring, but this was almost spiteful, and his tone was demanding. My question that I'll end this story with is, what were his intentions? And do I have the right to be mad? Either way, the creepy old guy who scared me and makes me still hate others touching me, let's not meet again. I'm a college-aged female and used to work at a unique Irish pub. Despite me living in a college townish area, this pub's primary clientele is men and women 40 and over. Seeing another young person is rare. The pub is owned by 3 older men who only ever come in to get free drinks for them and all their old friends, while treating the staff like dogs, but expecting us to have their every order memorized to a T. This was one of those nights. I had the closing serving shift on a Friday night, which meant if my sections were clear and everything was cleaned, I would clock out at 11 p.m. It had been a painfully slow night. Hadn't had a table in over 2 hours. Finished all my cleaning, set up for tomorrow's day shift, and nearing clock out time around 10:55. I was tired and just wanted to go home, talk with the other bartenders as you do, when in walks one of the owners with 30 of his best friends. They came in with no warning and crowded my entire section of tables. The bartender even tried to hide behind me so the owner wouldn't ask him to stay, because he always demands a server, even if his butt never sits at the table, and 50-50 shot you're getting the 20% tip off him. Unfortunately, he did not spot me, looked me in the eye and asked, "So are there any servers still out that can help us?" I cut my losses, figuring I'd at least make a little bit of a tip off the rest of the group if I played nice. You can believe I cocktailed the heck out of that party. No one's beer was ever empty. If I saw them a little green, I would ensure they found a ride out, handing out waters when I could tell things were out of hand. Food was in and out at light speed. Everyone had a great time. It turned into an okay night as the group would slip me cash here and there as a thank you. The night was finally rolling to an end when 3 of the men called me over. I walked over with a big smile despite being utterly exhausted, sweating like a pig, around 2 a.m. I don't get too bothered by creepy old men talk, especially if I'm constantly working in a place like that and normally shrugging it off. But I do not put up with bullcrap from people, no matter who they are, and will stand up for myself if needed. This was actually a funny conversation I had that turned creepy. Old guy number 3 was a 78-year-old man who I had served a minimum of 5 beers and 2 shots to. Guy number 1 says, "So forgive us if this is a little crass of a question, but it's been a funny debate all night, and we need a final woman's opinion. Beard or no beard?" I say, "Oh, well, of course a beard. I gotta say I love my fiance's beard." Guy number 2 says, "But doesn't it feel weird when you kiss him? Tickle your lips or scratch? Leftover food?" I say, "Not as much as you think. It can be a little scratchy when it's a certain length, but you tend not to notice it after a while. But he does keep his clean. Do you want me to grab you a wipey since you seem to need the help?" We were all laughing. Guy number 2 says, "You know, I may take you up on that one. So if he cut his beard, would you be upset, or what?" I said, "Nope, that's entirely up to him. If anything, it just takes some getting used to, but every girl's different and may prefer different." Old guy number 3 says, as he starts petting my hair lightly, "So you like the beard, huh? The whiskers turn you on?" I say, "Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, but to each her own," he says, as he puts his arm around my waist and pulls me against his chest, leaning down into my ear before I can protest. "I bet those whiskers feel real good between those nice legs of yours too, huh? I bet your fiancé can't compete." And then he wiggles his eyebrows at me too. At that point I was so shocked and ripped myself out of his arms pretty forcefully. No one had ever said something like that to me before. He was surprised that I was pissed, but tried to laugh it off and tried hushing and talking over me when the other two men, clearly confused, asked what he said to me. I've dealt with creepy flirting and stalking, but nothing so blatant as that. Instead, I straight up told the other two what he said. They looked absolutely disgusted with him, then walked straight to the bartender and head chef to tell them what happened. They, of course, were super mad at this guy. Older brother types to all the waitresses and would help us out in a heartbeat. But by the time they walked out, the owner had collected the creep for a big group photo before they all left. I will say I did get revenge since I worked the next morning. A large group of elder women came in that turned out to be the wives of the men from the previous night. When they realized I was one of the servers who served their husbands, they asked for all the details. I feel horrible for the poor man's wife, but you could see the rage burning in her eyes when she heard what her husband said. This is a story from a few years back, when I was in my last year of college. I was taking a history class that I loved, and it just so happened that my good friend Amelia was in the class too. Of course, we sat right next to one another. The class was taught by a very popular professor, so there were a good deal of people in it. At the time, I was a smoker, as was my friend Amelia, so we made a habit of sharing cigarettes together after class. Around this time, I started to befriend another person, Rachel. She and I didn't take any classes together, but she lived with another good friend of mine, so we started to get to know one another. Rachel and I would do homework together, hang out outside of the library together on study breaks, and so on. Amelia met Rachel separately, and before long the three of us became a little trio. About a month after we all became friends with Rachel, this boy from Amelia and I's class started to say hello to us during our cigarette break. He would make little comments here and there about things we learned in class, and would ask us how we were doing our papers and such. Eventually, we learned his name was Ryan, and Ryan became a fixture in our cigarette ritual. After a little while, Amelia and I noticed that Ryan was asking a lot of questions about our daily schedules. At first, we thought he was just trying to get to know us and our interests, but his questions were getting specific. What time did we go to the library? When did we study in places other than the library? Who did we like to study with? He was his normal smiley and friendly self the whole time, but the subject matter of his questions were just off. We thought perhaps he was a bit socially awkward. A lot of people at our school, well known for being full of eccentric students, were, well, eccentric. It wasn't terribly uncommon to encounter somebody who acted a little bit different than the norm. We let it slide. Ryan started asking Amelia and I to hang out outside of class. He wanted to tag along in what we usually did, but Amelia and I were both unusually busy at the time, and it kept not working out with our schedules. He kept asking every day after class, though, and we noticed he was getting less happy and significantly more irritated as time continued to go on. Amelia and I both agreed that he was starting to make us uncomfortable, though we couldn't quite put our fingers on why. One day, Rachel met Amelia and I at her dormitory, saying she had something serious she needed to speak with us about. When we got there, we settled onto a bench and got talking. Rachel told us that she had recently gotten out of a terrible abusive relationship with a boy who hit her, sexually assaulted her, and took general pleasure in her misery. Around the time we had met Rachel, she had begun the process of reporting him to campus authorities in an attempt to have him removed from campus. A temporary no-contact order had been put into place between the two of them, and Rachel told us that she had just moved into the dorm she was living in, so that he wouldn't know where she lived. She had also found out that her ex was attempting to befriend the people she knew, in an attempt to find out where she was living, where she spent her time, and what she liked to do and when. She wanted to warn us just in case he approached us, so that we would keep our distance and not reveal any information about her routines. She told us his name. His name was Ryan. Amelia and I both looked at each other in shock. To confirm, we asked Rachel to describe what he looked like. She described our new cigarette buddy and classmate to a T. We immediately informed Rachel about the interactions we had been having with Ryan, and Rachel informed us that we were the fifth and sixth people she had confirmed that Ryan was attempting to make contact with. Of course, we immediately started avoiding him, so neither of us ever saw him again. A few weeks after that, Rachel informed Amelia and I that Ryan had been expelled from the school. He had sexually assaulted another student at a party. When they went to collect evidence from his dorm room, they found a detailed ledger of information he had collected about Rachel and pieces of writing about all of the horrendous things he wanted to do to her. I'm not entirely sure whatever happened to him, but thank God we never saw him again. In spring of 2015, I, barely 18, took 5 of my friends, all girls, to what's known as Bunny Man Bridge in Fairfax, Virginia, since they'd never been. It was a Monday, maybe 9 p.m., and when we showed up, I wanted to get out and climb up along the railroad tracks that run over the bridge, as I had plenty of times in the past. I pulled the keys out of the ignition and sat for a minute telling them the tale of the Bunny Man, at which point they got kind of freaked out and decided to stay in the car. We sat there and kept talking for maybe 5 minutes, until someone in the back seat gasped and froze, staring out the back window on my driver's side of the car. I turned to my right to look at her and saw everyone else's faces freeze in horror, and the girl right behind me yelped. As I realized what was happening, I turned my head the other way to see who must be approaching. Someone started pounding on the back window and continued as they moved up towards my door. I turned just in time to see a man with a huge white dog come up and rip my door open. It was still unlocked from before when I'd been planning to get out, and for a second he just stood and stared at me, and he was visibly enraged. He started telling me this was private property and we were trespassing, and before I had a chance to tell him that we would leave, he started yelling at me to get out of the car. I said, "We can just leave, you're being crazy." And at that point, he lost it and started really yelling right in my ear. And I think he saw my keys sitting on my lap because he tried to grab towards them. But I pushed his arm away and started yelling some profanities while my friend in the passenger seat gasped loudly. He stepped back for a second to look me up and down, and then started eyeing the big metal cop flashlight I keep wedged under my seat. He tried to grab that too, but luckily his dog was off doing its own thing, and the leash pulled his arm away long enough for me to grab the door handle. He caught it just before it shut, and was trying to force it back open, saying he was going to call the police. And I finally thought to grab my car keys with my free hand and start the car, and I drove it off while he was still holding the handle, and then closed it once he couldn't